questions in mind, but we will postpone all questions till the end of the session, so as to have better control of time. And now we have a wrapping presentation for the basic education level sector. Dr. Noura El-Bilawi, please, Dr. Noura. And I believe that her presentation about, the role of entrepreneurial skills in the American curriculum framework is of an interest to all of us. And she's arrived yesterday, right? But from the US, she's coming in particular, and I'm very grateful for her contribution to this conference and to her coming all the way to give us her insight about this important topic. Please.
Thank you very much for inviting me, of course, and thank you for putting us together with such comprehensive content. We're all kind of targeting the same ideas and concepts, so you'll find me following up with some of the information that my colleagues have just shared. Today I'm coming with two hats actually in mind. One as the expert in curriculum design and the other as a teacher educator. So I come with both sides, more of the Eiffel Tower kind of information, the theoretical framework, but also I'll try to bring some practical application of what we're preaching for. So bear with me, I'll try to go through the Eiffel Tower framework quickly and then come to the practical application to see how is this done, because we kind of preach to the teachers all the time without giving them the tools and the toolkits on how to implement things. So let's start with, okay, is it the right one? I'm not doing something right. Oh, here we go. So the content will focus on the importance of education reform to match today's needs. And this actually goes back to Dr. Kandil's presentation at the very beginning. How can we match the needs, not only focus on the box of Egypt, but actually look at the workforce outside of Egypt and internationally. And then talk about the skills that we actually need, which is the entrepreneurial skills in education, and I'll talk about it in more details. And I'll present the practical part, which is a new design of implementing those entrepreneurial skills through what we call understanding by design model that focuses on backward design, and a tool or a toolkit that I've modified and added to the model to discuss more on how to apply it. So something practical for the teachers to learn. And we'll end with an example to show you how it's done. Okay, so when we talk about education reform, and this is really the focus of today's session, we need to understand that this is what we're calling for a change in the educational system. And my presentation today focuses with a narrow scope on curriculum design, curriculum framework, and how to implement those frameworks in order to reach what we seek for the most entrepreneurial skills that we need for our students to have. All of these need to match, again, not what we need in Egypt, but the workforce outside of Egypt, and how can we compete in this workforce as our students face the world outside and the challenges that the world market is now going on. So to recognize this nature, we need those entrepreneurial skills that actually focus on problem solving, real life thinking and critical thinking, and metacognition. What I mean by metacognition is when the students understand and learn about their learning, and that's what you were talking about the IB education, is getting the students to understand how can they manage their own learning, how do they best learn, and this is the highest of critical thinking approaches. Now, when we talk about the need for entrepreneurial skills and we need to design a new curriculum, theoretically people will ask us, well, where does this belong to? How do we have a framework in order to start with? And this goes back to the constructivist the curriculum approach, and that is really based on how educators are more like facilitators or mentors to the education rather than the sole knowledge holder. He's the only one who knows and he's the only one who speaks in the classroom rather than the students being engaged in their own learning and knowing about their own learning. Students need to be involved in experimental education, real-life education that really helps them in applying them in the real workforce and in real-life situation. Students need to work on skills like reflecting, creating mental representation, incorporating new knowledge into their schemas, and of course, problem solving. So that's the constructivist framework of those well-needed progressive entrepreneurial skills that we were just talking about, that we need them for the current and contemporary reform in our education. So that kind of gives that theoretical perspective, but then we come to teachers who will listen to us talking about all these frameworks and all these nice words, but how can we do it in the classroom? How can we apply it? Don't preach to us, just tell us how to do it. And this comes from my background as a teacher trainer doing many professional developments. We needed something applicable to these teachers. Now, real quick background on understanding by design. This is a model created by Wiggins, and he was actually focusing on the importance of the end rather than the beginning. So instead of a teacher comes and brings that textbook and says, okay, I need to teach this textbook from the first page to the last page. Instead of doing that, we really need to stop and think. What do I really want the students to learn after finishing this lesson or this book? What do I want them to know? What do I want them to be able to apply in real life? So we're looking at the end, the outcome, instead of just the input. So this is a transition from the textbook, which is the traditional ways of teaching, to more of real life application. If we are in this situation in real life, how am I going to need this information that I just learned in the classroom to apply it actually in real life? So because of that way of thinking, Wiggins developed what's called backward design. So instead of looking from the textbook and what am I going to teach right now, I'm going to think, what do I need to achieve, which is the main objective, the standard of our learning, and then how am I going to evaluate that these students learned what I wanted them to learn, and then what are the activities that I'm going to use in order to align them to these assessments and objectives. So if you think about it, you're really going backwards in that manner from what I need to achieve until the last part, which is actually the lesson activities. This graphic organizer here gives you the actual design of the Understanding by Design model. These are the 3 steps that any teacher needs to follow in order to achieve this Understanding by Design. So the first thing, I'm going to have the standards of learning, which is the most important guiding structured process of the learning. Then from these standards, I need to develop the objectives of learning. What do I need the students to learn? After we finish step 1 and after understanding what do I need the students to learn, I need to think, well, how am I going to evaluate this learning? And I'm going to give you an example of how to do this in a minute. And then the last step, which is step 3, now what are the activities that I'm going to use in order to best reach this final assessment and best aligns with these objectives. If you are familiar with this is it's a modified version of the Bloom's taxonomy. And the Bloom's taxonomy is known probably with the pyramid of hierarchy in thinking, of critical thinking. But this is a modified version that I thought if we take this as a toolkit and use it and merge it with the Understanding by Design, within Understanding by Design, it will help the teachers to implement the process of their learning. So for example, if you go to the middle circle, which is the inner circle, and you look at comprehension, which is understanding, level of critical thinking, the second level, which is the orange one, is your verbs that the teachers can use to create their own objectives. So in order to set an objective that focuses on comprehension, I can say students will be able to, and then use confirm or infer from a text. And then the third level would be the activity that I'm actually going to use in order to implement this. So it will be, students will be able to infer from the story how the characters acted based on anger or emotional situation. So if you look at how I used and transitioned from one circle to the other in order to achieve the levels of thinking, you will see how teachers can use this as a toolkit in order to design their own objectives, make sure that they have an evaluation of their assessment, which is the outer circle, the last one. They can use it as their evaluation, which is stage 2, right? If we go back to the stages, the first step is what we see in the circle, which is the verb that we're going to use. I'm sorry, I'm going to be going back and forth, but just to show you how we use it. So the orange circle will be the objectives, which is the stage 1. And then if we go to the step 2, which is the planning and assessment, you will go to the outer circle, the last circle, and choose from that. So this way, the teachers, when they're designing their lessons, they'll be able to choose from the different levels of thinking without asking them, because many teachers, we tell them, well, you need to make sure that you're implementing all the levels of thinking, of critical thinking, rather than just focusing on knowledge, which is factual information all the time. You need to go to synthesizing and evaluation, which are the highest in the levels of thinking. By giving them the Bloom's wheel and teaching them how to go through the Wiggins stages of design. This way we are not leaving them in the whole trying to implement entrepreneurial skills without knowing how to maneuver around the critical thinking level, how to design an objective, and how to find the suitable or applicable or most aligned evaluation tools and assessments. All right.
Now, I'm keen to know about the recommendations, please. The recommendations. I mean, there's a slide on recommendations, but this is very important.
Sure, absolutely.
Can we go back to the presentation?
Oh, here we go. So, just a couple of final recommendations. It is important to think of curriculum theories and align curriculum framework with the demands of contemporary workforce, and that's one of the important core themes that everyone talked about, how to align and look at the workforce currently. What are our needs in relation to international workforce, and align those with the framework from curriculum theories. And most importantly, of course, is the ongoing professional development. We cannot just teach those things and let go. We have to have a sustainable continuum of professional development for our teachers, and it's really important, and I come from experience talking with teachers here in Egypt while I was doing some other research related back at work in the US, is that many teachers complained that we preach to them. You can tell us all what you want, you can give us all the information you want, but without giving us the toolkits in how to apply, without giving us the resources and where to find this information, we are lost, and no matter what, we find ourselves going back to our traditional ways of teaching.
Thank you. Actually, I agree completely with all what you have said. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation, Dr. El-Bilawi, and it's really very inspiring, and we have a lot of questions to ask. Then it's time to grow up a little bit to the vocational education level, and would ask Mona Ayub she's been an expert for quite now a few